There's that specific feeling you get on a random Tuesday afternoon. You're sifting through the mail. It's mostly junk, a pizza flyer, and then you see it. That nondescript white envelope.
The one with the little cellophane window that somehow looks judgmental.
That is the one. It's your auto insurance renewal. And if you live in New York, you don't just open it. You brace for impact.
Take a deep breath.
You do. Maybe pour a drink. And then you rip it open, and just inevitably your jaw hits the floor. You're just staring at this number thinking, I drive a 2018 sedan. I haven't hit a soul. Why does this look like a mortgage payment?
It's really the great unifier of the New York experience, isn't it? We'd all have that moment of sticker shock.
We do, and we usually just, rationalize it. We say, oh, the BQE is a nightmare, or city driving is just risky.
Right, the standard New York tax on just existing.
Exactly. We blame the potholes. But today, we're diving into a source that suggests, well, that our assumptions might be a little too innocent. That the reason that Bill is eating up your paycheck isn't just about bad drivers.
It seems we might be unknowingly funding a massive industrial-scale machine operating just in the shadows of the highway.
And a very, very expensive machine at that.
Extremely. The source we're unpacking today is an article from the Empire Report. It's dated February 2, 2026, and the title really pulls no punches.
What is it?
Hochul's anti-fraud agenda takes on billboard lawyers and puts New Yorkers back in the driver's seat.
Okay. The author is Tom Stebbins. And before we get into what he's claiming, we should probably establish who he is, because in this world, nobody's really a neutral observer.
That is a crucial point. Tom Stebbins is the executive director of the Lawsuit Reform Alliance of New York.
Okay.
So this is a coalition of businesses, insurers, industry groups. Their entire platform is built on the idea that, the civil justice system is out of control and litigation costs are just strangling the economy.
So we're looking at this through a very specific lens. This is the business lobby making its case against the trial lawyers.
Yes, this is Godzilla versus Kong, but with lobbyists in Albany.
Pretty good analogy.
But, regardless of which side he's on, the data Stebbins presents on the mechanics of this fraud and just the sheer scale of the costs is fascinating.
Right. So our mission for this deep dive is to basically open up the hood of this anti-fraud agenda and see why the average driver is getting squeezed so hard.
Let's start with the squeeze then.
Yeah, let's. Stebbins throws out a number right at the top that, it honestly made me do a double take. He says the average New Yorker is now paying $4,000 a year for car insurance.
$4,000. It's a staggering figure. And to give you some context, that's roughly $1,500 above the national average.
$1,500. That's not just a little surcharge for living in a busy city. That's a 60% markup just for having New York plates.
Yeah.
That's a vacation.
It's a new appliance, it's real money, and it gets even more concerning when the article breaks it down by, household economics.
How so?
For working and middle-class families, car insurance isn't just another utility bill anymore. It's consuming between 7 and 10% of their total household income.
Wait, hold on. Think about the math on that. If you have a standard job, you are working one full day every 2 weeks just to pay for the right to drive your car to work.
It's an enormous economic drag, and the core question Stebbins tries to answer is why? Why is the gap between New York and, say, Pennsylvania so wide?
And it's not just the traffic.
It's not. He points the finger at two main culprits: rampant fraud and runaway litigation.
Rampant fraud feels like one of those terms that gets thrown around. When I think of insurance fraud, I picture someone maybe, fudging the date on a bumper scratch.
This is not that. He's describing organized crime rings. This is not opportunistic. This is manufacturing chaos.
Okay.
Stebbins cites a specific data point from 2023 that is genuinely alarming. In that year alone, there were 1,729 recorded staged auto collisions in New York.
Pause on that. 1,729? That's what, 5 a day?
5 times a day. Every single day of the year, somewhere in this state, a criminal ring is intentionally causing a car crash to get an insurance payout.
That is terrifying. Because you're driving to the grocery store, listening to the radio, and you have no idea the car in front of you might just be a prop in a performance.
And you are the unsuspecting co-star. Stebbins notes it creates a real physical danger, obviously. But even if you never get hit, you are paying for it.
Right.
The industry calls it the fraud tax. The article claims these manufactured crashes inflate your premium by as much as $300 a year.
So before I even back out of my driveway, I've already paid a $300 subscription fee to these fraud rings.
Effectively, yes. But to understand how they can get away with this 5 times a day, we have to look at the system they're exploiting. The article focuses heavily on New York's no-fault insurance laws.
Okay, no fault. I see that on my policy. I nod like I get it. But I think most of us just assume it means we won't argue about who hit who.
It's a bit more technical. The system, or personal injury protection, was designed decades ago with a really noble intent.
Which was?
The idea was to speed things up, to keep small cases out of court. If you get into a fender bender, your own insurance company pays your medical bills and lost wages right away, regardless of who caused it.
Which sounds great in theory. I get my bills paid fast. I don't have to sue the other guy for an x-ray.
And the courts aren't clogged. That was the dream. But Stebbins argues that in practice, this guaranteed pot of money has become, in his words, a magnet for abuse.
Because the payout is automatic. You don't have to prove negligence to get the medical funds.
Precisely. It created a perfect incentive structure for bad actors to game the system. And the numbers, they really back this up. The source notes that no-fault claims now account for about 75% of all fraud reports to the Department of Financial Services.
3/4. 75% of all insurance fraud in the entire state is concentrated in this one area. That doesn't sound like a bug. That sounds like the business model.
It's the engine of the whole scheme. Stebbins breaks down how these rings operate, and it's disturbingly sophisticated.
It starts with recruitment.
Yes. They aren't using their own cars. They recruit vulnerable people to be the drivers or passengers,
So they're hiring a cast.
essentially. Then comes the stage, which is where they pull maneuvers like the swoop and squat. One car cuts you off and slams on the brakes so you rear-end them.
And that causes chaos for everyone else on the road.
It does, but for them, the crash is just the opening act. The real profit comes next. Exaggerating the injuries to get what Stebbins calls colossal settlements.
But wait, if no fault pays the bills, isn't there a cap? How do you get a colossal settlement?
That is the critical loophole. No fault covers the basics. But if you can prove you suffered a serious injury, which is a specific legal threshold, you can step outside the no-fault system and sue for pain and suffering.
And that's where the unlimited money is.
That's where the real money is. So the whole game is to take a minor bruise and manufacture a paper trail that makes it look like a serious injury.
And to do that, you need more than a driver. You need professionals.
You need validators. And this brings us to the ecosystem that Stebbins describes and the main antagonist of his article. The trial lawyers, specifically the billboard lawyers.
The ones I see every 3 miles on the LAE.
Yeah.
Injured. Call 1-800 whatever.
Those are the ones, and you are not imagining that they're taking over the landscape. The source says a law firm spending on advertising, billboards, TV, radio has surged by 260% over the past decade.
A 260% increase. You don't increase your overhead that much unless the return on investment is basically guaranteed.
It suggests the model is incredibly lucrative. These lawyers typically work on contingency, taking about 33% of the settlement. So the bigger the settlement, the bigger their payday.
Okay, so the lawyer wants a big settlement. To get that, you need proof of a serious injury, which means you need a doctor.
And that leads us to the medical mill. This was the part of the article that felt the most systemic. Stebbins describes a pipeline between the lawyers and the medical care.
A pipeline? I mean like a formal partnership?
A referral network. The data shows more than a third of claimants say their lawyer recommended their medical provider. Another 33% say the lawyer actually helped them find the doctor.
Okay, but playing devil's advocate for a second. If I'm hurt and I don't know a specialist, isn't it helpful if my lawyer knows a guy?
In a vacuum, sure. But in the context of fraud, Stebbins argues it's a massive conflict of interest. The allegation is that these lawyers send clients to specific clinics willing to play the game.
What's the game?
Running unnecessary tests, ordering excessive treatments, keeping the patient coming back week after week.
All to inflate the bill. Because if the medical bill is $50,000 instead of $5,000, it's easier to argue serious injury in court. The settlement goes up and the lawyer's 33% cut gets fatter.
You've got it. It's an inflation machine. The lawyer feeds the doctor generates the bills grow, and the insurance company pays it, which means you pay it when your premium jumps to $4,000.
It's cynical, but the logic holds together. But there was one more layer here that I honestly hadn't heard of before, this litigation funding.
Yeah. This is maybe the most complex nugget in the whole source. We're talking about third-party financing of lawsuits.
Break that down for me. Who is funding a car accident lawsuit?
Investors, hedge funds, Private equity firms, entities with absolutely no connection to the crash. They provide cash up front to the law firm or even directly to the plaintiff.
It sounds like venture capital, but for car crashes.
That is a very good description. And Stebbins argues that in the world of fraud, this money is essential. It bankrolls the entire operation. It's the cash you need to pay the recruited drivers and buy the crash cars.
Does the jury know about this? If I'm on a jury, do I know that some hedge fund is betting on the outcome?
No, and that's the massive transparency gap the article points to. The existence of these funding contracts is hidden from the court.
That seems like a huge blind spot. If a third party has a financial stake, you'd think that would be relevant information for a judge or jury.
Stebbins argues it's vital. He advocates for mandated disclosure to expose the financial incentives that are really driving the litigation.
So we have the staged crashes, the medical mills, the billboard lawyers, the shadow investors. It sounds unstoppable. But the article's title says Governor Hochul is trying to put a stop to it.
She's certainly making noise. The article quotes her being very blunt. Just, car insurance rates are just too damn high.
Hard to argue with that. But what's the actual plan?
Stebbins outlines her affordability agenda. It has a few key parts. First, she wants to tighten that legal definition of serious injury.
Closing the loophole.
Exactly. Raise the bar for what qualifies for a big pain and suffering lawsuit. Second, she wants to limit damages for criminals. So if you're driving drunk, you can't access the same system benefits.
That seems like it should already be the law.
You'd think. And third, she's calling for more resources for the state police and the Department of Financial Services to actually investigate and prosecute these rings.
Right, because you can change the laws, but you need detectives to actually catch the people staging the crashes. But the cynic in me always says that'll never work. Stebbins, though, he points to a case study. Florida.
I know. Usually when we say, let's look at Florida, it's not as a role model for stability.
Right.
But in the world of tort reform, they're the gold standard right now. They did almost exactly what Hochul is proposing.
And what happened?
According to Stebbins, the results were immediate. He claims 80% of Florida drivers saw savings, and some insurers cut premiums by up to 20%.
20%. Let's go back to our $4,000 bill. A 20% cut is $800.
That's real money for a family. That's groceries for a month.
So if the blueprint exists, the governor's on board, the drivers are desperate, what's the holdup? Who's standing in the way?
And that brings us to the politics of Albany. Stebbins points to the state legislature as the primary obstacle. He frames it as a battle between the governor's agenda and the trial lawyer lobby.
How does the legislature get involved?
He points out that the legislature introduces countless bills with what are called private rights of action.
Translate that for us non-lawyers.
It just means the law authorizes individuals to sue. So instead of a government agency enforcing a new rule, any citizen can file a lawsuit if they think the rule was violated.
And the argument is that this is basically a job creation program for lawyers.
Precisely. He argues that instead of passing Hochul's anti-fraud agenda, they're busy creating more reasons to sue, which just feeds the beast. And he says they're doing it because the trial lawyer lobby is one of the most powerful special interest groups in Albany.
He really frames it as a binary choice.
He does support the billboard lawyers and their profits, or support the drivers and lower costs.
It's fascinating to see the whole ecosystem laid out. You open that envelope, you think it's just a bill, but it's really a receipt for the staged crashes, the medical referrals, the highway ads, the lobbying. It's all baked into that final number.
It is. And I think the challenge is to balance the need for access to justice. Because if you are legitimately injured, you absolutely need a lawyer against the collective cost of a system that is so clearly vulnerable to fraud.
Right. We don't want to shut the courthouse door on real victims.
Of course not. But when 75% of fraud reports are coming from one place, that door seems to be left wide open for the wrong people.
And that whole cycle, the lawyers, the medical mills, the funding, it just self-perpetuates. The more money they make, the more ads they buy, the more clients they get, the higher our premiums go.
And Stebbins is effectively saying we have to break that wheel. The Florida comparison suggests that without a big structural intervention, that wheel just keeps spinning faster.
So for the person listening to this on their commute,
Yeah.
hopefully keeping a safe distance from the car in front, what does this all mean for them?
It means that when you hear about tort reform, it's not some abstract political game. It is directly connected to your disposable income. It's about whether you get to keep that $800 or not.
It's a test of political will then. The governor versus the lobby.
It's a heavyweight fight. The question is whether the political desire to lower costs for voters is stronger than the financial influence of the legal industry.
That's the question we'll have to watch play out.
I'll leave you with one final thought to chew on. If these billboard lawyers are as powerful and influential as Stebbins claims funding campaigns, shaping legislation, is it even possible to really dismantle this system? Or have we built an economy that's just too profitable for too many powerful people to ever truly change?
Are we the drivers, or are we just the revenue stream?
Something to think about the next time you see one of those signs promising you a big check.
On that note, thanks for joining us on the Deep Dive. Drive safe out there, literally, and we will catch you on the next one.